Like, like I can earn a college degree. I can drive the nicest car. I can like have all these clothes and all these things. But I'm like, okay, when I die, what does that matter to anyone else?
Yeah, Christian Dior, yeah, knock, got peas at the door, yeah, 30 point gon' score, yeah, arm and hammer like Thor, yeah, wow, sippin' some oil, yeah, water gon' boil, yeah, big coupe Megazord, yeah, plain paddock is aluminum foil, yeah.
He's been making music for a while now. It's Myles Jéh. Please welcome him to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good too. So to start it off, I just kind of wanted to know, how did you get into making music, or was there like a specific moment you were like, oh, I'm better than most people at this?
I got into music, but technically, like since I was a little kid, I was writing songs and stuff when I was younger. But I never released anything. I didn't actually start performing in front of people until my junior year of high school, which I started performing by dancing. So that wasn't even my introduction to music, my own original music. That didn't come until actually years later. My first project came out in 2015. So it was like way after, like, because I graduated high school in 2008. So like what junior year would have been like around 2007. Yeah, so my introduction to music started around then. Like I was always writing, but initially like I was writing for other artists. Like I had two other friends that like they sing, and then I was writing for them and stuff like that behind the scenes, and just giving like creative direction, choreographing for other artists. And then I started working on my own vocals, because at a certain point I was like, hey, I want to sing, but I honestly had like no vocal control, and I was like, yeah, this is not gonna work out. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be a singer, so I'll write for other people. And then I was like, well, maybe I can rap. Like, let me try like to convert some of these songs into raps and like work on the lyrics and work on my lyricism and everything like that. And then that's how it kind of all shifted into me being my own artist. I started with rapping first, and then while rapping and presenting music that way behind the scenes, I was always working on vocals, even in college. I did vocal lessons and everything, and like just kept working on it, getting better. And then once I became comfortable enough, I started to like slowly release like songs of me singing, and like just kind of getting a feel for how people reacted to it, and then just kept going with it.
Mm-hmm. So you started doing other performing arts well before anything music related, and then this is a common thing you hear, but you started writing for quite a while before actually doing your own stuff.
Yes, like
yeah. So you were saying you didn't really have the vocal control to sing. If you ended up being able to sing and you thought you had the vocal control, do you think you ever would have gone into rapping, or do you think you would have just kept going down the singing route?
I probably would have just started with singing. Like I think because of like me not having like the vocal, in my opinion, like I couldn't sing. So I'm like, because I couldn't sing at the time, I was like, it hit me. I was like, maybe I'll just try this avenue, and that's where it came from. But I think if I had like that raw talent of like just being able to sing and like hold the tune, I probably would have never explored it, or if I did, it might have been short lived. And now like I built my brand on having both, like rapping and singing infused, that I continue with both, because I do equally love to do both. I love writing songs where I can just sing on it and I like enjoy melodies. I love writing raps where I can just be like a little bit more aggressive or direct in a way, to where it's like I can play on both and people receive both well. So I just go with it.
So if someone, hasn't really heard of you and is just starting to listen to your stuff, do you think a better thing would be to go towards your more singing songs or your more rapping songs, or do you kind of feel that both are equally as good and either one could attract more fans?
I feel both are equally as good, and based on the feedback that I've gotten from people over the years, it varies. Some people do attract more to the singing songs. Some people attract more to the rapping songs. Like the more popular ones that I'm thinking of, like right off the top, are like Nickelodeon, Been There, Done That, Out of Character, which those three are like more geared towards rapping with like a little singing, and Been There, Done That. And then also U-Turn, Natural Disaster, Excuses, and those are all like the singing like bass songs. So it is a combination. I guess it depends on the viewer, the listener, what you like. But I have gotten like, especially earlier when I first started rapping, that a lot of people that don't really listen to a lot of rap, they would tell me like, I don't really listen to rap, but I like your music a lot. So if you're like someone who's not big on rap music or anything like that, you probably would still enjoy it because there is like an element of like melody to it.
You're a good like phase
of, like,
into rap, and it's not just rap, but it also has some singing in there. So when in 2015, when you started doing your own things and your own singing and rapping, what was one thing you wish you had known when you started doing that?
Oh wow, there's a lot I wish I had known back then. I wish I had like the resources. I wish I knew about like having a budget. I wish I knew like about having a team. I would like if there was like one thing. I'm trying to like narrow it down. Wow. I wish I knew at the time like networking was going to be like a huge component of like being an artist. I'm an introverted person, so I had to stay to myself a lot, and like even like earlier on, like my initial project was like a mixtape, and I was like, I did it all by myself. I was like, I was just trying to figure it out. And listening to it now compared to like the newer music that I have, I'm like, yeah, that's trash. Like this sounds horrible. But like I wish I knew like networking was gonna be a huge thing at the time, like reaching out and utilizing like people in the community that like already worked in the area and worked in the field, and just utilizing their skills and their talents and just picking their brains, stuff like that. I wish I knew that like earlier on, because I definitely would have reached out to more people.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, that like networking is everything, because even if you know a person who knows a person who knows a person, that for all you know, that could help you at some point with whatever you're doing. So
it all leads somewhere. You never know. Like it's like some stories is like, I know this person who like somehow connected me with this person, and somehow like that connected with it. It's like, I don't know how we got here, but thanks. Like, like it just works out.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same question, but what tips would you give to other people who are just starting to make their own music?
A tip I would give to other people starting out. One tip, and this is that I'll give a different answer. One tip, I usually say this, I would give to like new incoming, upcoming independent artists is don't expect support. Like a lot of people starting out, like it's natural to think like your family, your friends like always like automatically want to support you, which is understandable. But if they don't, I tend to see a lot of people feeling like really upset and like let down about it, and it's a huge disappointment. So don't expect support. Like if they do support you, great. Or also, and like with that said, also announce like to them, like tell them what kind of support you actually need, because some people do support you, but it's like behind the scenes, like it's not on social media, so you don't know that they're supporting you. So if you do need like the support to be visible support, let it be known. Like ask for that, so you're not setting an expectation that they're not aware of.
Don't like expect them to know what you want. You have to communicate what you're looking for.
Exactly. Because I know a lot of people, like especially now in the age of like social media, like you want people to share your music, you want them to stream, and you want them to like post it and put other people on. But if you're not saying that to some people, they are not gonna just pick up on it. They think like liking it is enough. They think that a comment is enough. They think like talking about it behind the scenes with family and friends and sharing it that way is enough.
Or just like mentioning it in one conversation with one person.
Right. And sometimes that is enough. Like you never know who's talking about you, when, and where. But again, like just don't expect like support. Like just keep working at it, and the support will come. And it may come from friends and family. It may, and of course, quite naturally, it's gonna come from people who you have no idea who they are, and they're just gonna take to your music.
I'm sure going back to not always getting like nothing but support from friends and family. I'm sure that's also harder in maybe rap or music, which people see as like not your typical like career choice, or not the normal like go to college, get a 9-to-5 job, and all that. So kind of playing onto that, rap and music in general is definitely a hard industry to get your name out there, to break into. Was there ever a moment where you kind of just felt like you had plateaued, or like you wouldn't go higher, like anything where you thought like, oh, maybe I can't do this, maybe I should try something else?
There was never that moment for me. There was a moment where I had to shift my thinking about the industry. Like before, like initially, it's like you want to like be signed to a label. You want to get like maximum exposure. You want to like tour the world and like have the glitz and glamour of music and the industry of it all. And then there was a point to where it was like my definition of success shifted to where it was like, I don't want that. I want to be able to connect with people. Like at a certain point with fame and everything, there's a disconnect from like the artist to the fans. And I'm like, I don't want that disconnect. I want to be able to say like, thank you to someone who actually supports me. I want to be able to talk and have a conversation with people who support me. So I'm like, I never wanted to be like, well, I no longer want to be like famous, like huge, like such a household name that it's like, I can't have privacy. I can't have connectivity and relatability to people. It's like, I always want to be able to say like have a conversation with you, even like, I want to always be able to like have this type of connection. Like you reached out directly, I responded directly. It wasn't like, oh, you're talking to a manager who's talking to me, who's like, it's like a middle person or all this stuff. It gets cloudy, it gets blurry, it gets fuzzy.
And then you talk to a manager, they might not even see it as like important enough to bring it up to the actual artist. Exactly.
And I'm like, I want to be able to have that control and have the luxury of saying yes to things that I see as an opportunity. Like, this is great for me. Like, I love it working with people like that are doing their own thing and starting out and stuff like that. So, but I find value in that, and other people may not because they're seeing me as money. I'm a revenue like making artist at that point. It's like, okay, you need to do everything that's going to make sure you're bringing in money because that's what we're here for. And for me, like that, doing it that way or having that mentality is great because of course you want to make money off of what you do, but at the same time, it's like you lose some of the artistry, you lose some of the creativity, and sometimes you lose some of just the drive and motivation you have of like how you started. So I shifted my own personal goal with and definition of success with just making sure that I reach people, and I've done that thus far, and I'm glad and grateful for what I've done, and I'm able to say like I've done it without a full team of people. I've done it without having a manager, without having a stylist, without having like all of these things that are in place for most people in the industry that are signed artists, and just working on it and working at it. So like where I've gotten now is like I'm able to say like this is success. This is what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, you see like the huge mega stars like Drake, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, like they cannot go in public because no matter what, they're going to be recognized. And so a lot of artists I've talked to are like, I want to be at the point where I make a good amount of money and I'm pretty well set, but I still have, like, it's possible for me to connect to all people who reach out for me, or as many as I can get to.
Yeah. Like if I'm able to like tour the world and stuff like that, great. But my goal is to like make sure like wherever I perform that I'm reaching people that actually know me, actually listens to me, and not just I'm on a stage and everyone's like just being introduced, and it's like I want to like perform somewhere, even if it's like a small like 50 people maximum, like, and everyone here bought a ticket specifically knowing they're coming to see me. Like that's great compared to like 100 or 10,000 people to where it's like no one knows who you are. Like they're actually here to see someone else, and you're opening up. Like I would love the opportunity, but at the same time, it's like that's not my. That's
when people
not my
think of concerts, all
the
openers are kind of just like looked past, looked over, and all that's just preparation for the main artist. Whereas if you are the main artist, like that's what people are there to see. That's what people are looking forward to.
Now, if I'm the main artist with 10,000 fans, then great.
So I see on your arm you have a tattoo. Did you get those cut for things that really are meaningful to you? Is there a one that means the most to you? What's the meaning behind those?
So I have 3 tattoos overall. This one is actually from my brother who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I have one on my chest for my goddaughter and one on my leg for my godson. So all of them are like meaningful to me. The first one I got was the one for my brother. I got it when I was 16 with parental consent, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And like he passed, but he ended up drowning. Like just like to add more context, and so I ended up getting it. Then I was like 16, he was 14, and the one on my chest I got when I was 18, and one on my leg I think I was about 20 or 21.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so I can tell with all those stories, your tattoos are very meaningful to you and they really have meaning behind them. What do you think of artists who kind of get weird, pointless tattoos just because it fits the whole quote unquote rapper look or the cool look?
I mean, if you like it, like some of them can be painful. So if you like it, I love it. It's great for you. I would encourage people to just be their authentic selves, though. Like if you're doing it to fit an aesthetic and not doing it because it actually is something you want to do, like yourself, I think that there might be a little issue there. But who am I to judge? Like if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. And sometimes, honestly, like it could fit. At this point, like there are so many like temporary and fake tattoos. There's no need to like get the real ones,
Mm-hmm.
and they look like so authentic. Like you're better off just doing that. Like even for a simple like video shoot or photo shoot, and then just washing it off.
And so the real ones, I'm sure you knew they hurt, but was there anyone where you were like, yeah, I know this is going to hurt, but they started in, like, you were almost shocked and, like, surprised because it hurt more than you thought it would?
The one on my leg, which was the last one I got, and after that, I was like, I refuse to get more. Like, this is it.
Like, okay, that's kind of the point that I'm stopping it at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first one, like, it was like, this one and the one on my chest, they were more, like, irritating than painful, if that makes sense. It was just like the needle just kept, like, sticking. It was like,
like discomfort more than pain.
Yeah, it was like someone like just keep poking you, and it's like, can you stop now? It was one of those. And the one on my leg was painful. Like it's on like soft tissue, it's on bone, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm okay. I had an idea for like a fourth tattoo, and I was like, no, I don't need it. It's not deep. It's not that deep.
Mm-hmm. So is there someone, it could be in the music industry or personally, who has really inspired you and kept you going for music or in your life?
In my life is like my best friend, like Tasia New. She's also an artist herself. I'm also like I work with her behind the scenes as well, like her choreographer, creative director, and like we kind of like motivate each other and bounce off of each other all the time because like we talk about this, we talk about that, we work together like with music, like but if you like hear her music and you hear my music, it's like two completely different sounds. Like you would never think like we like collaborated on so much and like throughout the years, but it just fits well because like what she is going for, like I'm able to have like that outlet without having it be my music and my sound, if that makes sense. We do have like some records that we have collaborated on, but it's like very few compared to how many people would have expected over the years, and those are actually very recent.
I'm sure it's like something like the Justin Bieber Chance the Rapper thing that happened. Like when you just hear the two names, you're like, that shouldn't mix, or like that doesn't sound like it would work.
Yeah.
But they come out with the song and they actually
it.
fit much better than people thought. So
Right, yeah.
if you have them, it's okay if you don't. Do you have like a top 3 artists of all time?
All time? Wow. Oh, wow. Of all time. See, no, I don't, because like there's like different eras of my life where like certain artists stood out more than others, and they kind of interchange all the time. Like at one point, like Usher was like my top favorite artist. Like you couldn't say anything about Usher. Like that was like who it was most inspired by. And then like later on, as life continued going on, like Brandy, I love her music and her sound. John Legend, like when I started vocal lessons, I was like, I want to sing like John. I want to sing like John. And my vocal coach was like, absolutely not. I'm like, okay. So, but there's like a bunch of artists. Like I'm always inspired by like mainstream artists, independent artists, like up and coming artists, like just in different ways and formats and stuff like that. So I don't have a top 3 of all time. Like I wish like I was able to answer it better, but I don't.
So you mentioned that like you looked up to Usher at one point, or he might have helped you in some songs. Like, is there either it could be just him, or are there others that maybe you like take bits and pieces of from your music, or maybe you are influenced by something they do, or is it just all you and all your stuff?
Oh no, exactly, absolutely not all me.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's I can like in my mind I'm like running down like certain songs where I'm like, okay, I want to do something like how they did this. There's Usher, there's Erica Badu, there's Tiana Taylor, Jade Nova, Jay Howell. These are like more like on the independent artist side
Hmm.
right now. Brandy, um, Life Jennings, Sam Smith, Jay Z, Lil Wayne. I remember that song. Like the list goes on and on. Like there's
Yeah.
like so many different aspects of different artists that
Yeah.
I'm like, and it'll be like something for other people. Like it might be so insignificant. Like how did you pick up on that? Like what made you think of that? And for me, it's like that it stood out to me. That's what inspired me and made me like think of like of writing this song. And you'll hear the song that I'm thinking, like the song that I actually wrote compared to the song that I heard that inspired it. And you're like, how did you get that? But that's how it works out for me.
Yeah, and I can tell even from that question you take inspiration from everything like Sam Smith and Lil Wayne. Like those are two completely different artists.
Yeah.
But hmm um, and so when you're writing a new song and you get the do you get the lyrics first and then the beat first and the lyrics? What kind of goes into that creative process for you?
I've done both, but typically it's beat first and then lyrics after. Like my typical process is like I'll have a beat and I will just press like record on a voice memo and I'll just come up with melodies. And then when I play it back, somehow out of the melodies I hear the words. Like it literally just like it writes itself that way. And so that's the typical process. I have had some songs where I write like lyrics, like it'll be like I'll drive and I'm like something pops into my head and I'll like record it like a melody and like write it down and stuff like that. And then I'll find a beat and try to like fit it to it or shift the melody to fit to it and stuff like that, which can be harder depending on like how like detailed or specific I am trying to be with a beat that I'm looking for or sound I'm looking for. Um, but typically it's like I'll find beats first that I'm like, okay, I like the sound of this, I can write to this, and then I'll like play with it and everything like that.
So you've been making music for a while now, and you're at a pretty good level. But what do you think of new artists who kind of come out with music, and it seems almost instantaneous that they start growing to a huge level? Like you see people like Lil Nas X, Billie Eilish, like 2 years after they start music, or for Lil Nas's case, like the first song he has on Spotify, like get to huge numbers, and they become giant artists. What do you think of those?
Like it's great. Like I'm glad that like artists now are getting the opportunity, like especially as like independent artists or unsigned artists or newly signed artists, they're getting the opportunities that took like a decade, like years ago, like to build to that point. Whereas now it's like if you're putting in the work and you're doing stuff like because like it was Lil Nas X's first song that went out there, but it wasn't his first song he
Yeah.
ever did. So it was like
People
are
see that and
working a lot
are like, oh, I can make music, and they just start it, and then they're confused when they don't come up to a thing. But he was like, he had things planned, and he was doing things for much longer before that.
Exactly. Like, and that's like a lot of what people don't see is like there is a storyline and like a journey before they shoot to like superstardom.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know if this is like a strategic thing in the industry to where they don't want to talk about that journey, but a lot of artists never share that part of it. So a lot like more upcoming and independent artists start thinking like it's supposed to happen instantaneously,
Mm-hmm.
or if it doesn't, like you're not doing good or you're not like good enough or whatever the case is.
Or you must be like doing something wrong or something.
Exactly. So it's like I think we need to hear those stories a lot more because a lot of people are being disappointed and let down just off of this idea that people are supposed to just shoot the superstardom right off the first song, and it's like that doesn't happen for most, if any, artists. Like it's going to take time. It's going to take time, like putting in the work and performing and honing your skills. And I think like if like shooting to superstardom within 2 years and stuff like that, if you put in the work and you're doing like what you do and you love, and people are taking to it, then great. If you're doing it and it's not who you are, and you're like just kind of fitting to like this label industry mold and just doing kind of what they want you to do, at that point it kind of is like, it's great that you have the exposure and the fame that you wanted, but is it worth the cost? Would be my question to them. And but yeah, if this is what they love to do and they're being themselves, then I'm all for it.
So you kind of, like I mentioned, Lil Nas X, Billie Eilish, you see artists now who are so young and they're getting started in their like 18, 19, 20, around that age. You are not by any means old, but you're older than that. Do you think that is an advantage because you have more experience, disadvantage, neutral? What do you think of that?
It depends on like how you're looking at it, because I do have like, I guess, more wisdom or like more knowledge of stuff, but at the same time, like as a younger artist, you have more, you are able to create a larger fan base, if that makes sense. Like you can reach students who are still in middle school and high school. You can reach people who are a little bit older, like college. You're
more
age.
Relatable to them than
so you have like more of a range. Whereas like me at 30 years old, it's like you have like kind of like a smaller window. However, I've been able to maximize it based on my sound and based on my performance style, to where I actually do have a fan base reaching as far as young as elementary school age students and as old as like my grandparents' age. So it's like I do have a wide fan base just based on, again, just my sound, because like I don't have a trendy sound, if you will, to where it's like, okay, that sounds like something like the young like 20-year-old might listen to today. It's like my sound kind of can capture anyone who wants to like listen to like quality, good, solid music type of thing. And that isn't age specific. Like any and everyone, even if you are a fan of like Lil Nas X, and like I say this all the time, I'm like, fans and supporters are not like linear. Like you're able to like listen to a Lil Wayne and the Sam Smith and like and a Beyonce and like all of these other people. It's not like, okay, if you listen to Lil Wayne, you're only gonna listen to artists that sound like Lil Wayne. Yeah. Or if you listen to Sam Smith, you're only gonna listen to artists who sound like him.
Yeah, like knowing my music taste and my Spotify. Like I'm not a huge country person, but other than that, I will have a huge range of sounds, anywhere from like rap or like fast rap to like slow melodic, like nice singing. So
exactly. So knowing that, like, and realizing that, like, I go off of that. Like, I'm like, my sound, like, I can reach someone who listens to rap. I can reach someone who listens to like just singing songs. I can reach someone who wants up tempo. I can reach someone who wants mid tempo or slow. Like, so, and that again is just not age specific. Like, people are going to be able to relate to the music or just enjoy the music regardless of how old or young you are.
And so some, usually younger, but also for all ages, some artists might get themselves into relationships they know are going to fail, or purposely get themselves into bad or toxic situations because when it's over they get inspiration or ideas for a song from that. What do you think about that, and do you do that yourself?
That can be scary, because if you're going into it with intentions of like something bad happening so you can like make another album, it's like that's concerning. But I do not do that. Like, I end up writing what I call like I mean, some of it is like real life experiences, but I call it realistic fiction. Like, it's something that is relatable, that people can connect to, and it's a story. Like, I'm able to share and spread stories, but every story that I write and every song that I put out there is not a personal experience, even though I can frame it to where it sounds like it is.
So you talk about that, saying stories. Is there a specific message you're trying to spread with your music and tell people, or are you just kind of making music because it's something you like to do?
Overall, it's like I enjoy like making music and stuff like that, but my and it's funny because on the first album on Milestones, I actually put this on. The cover looks like a newspaper article, and in one of the stories, I write that I'm not looking for fame. I'm looking for a legacy, and in that I mean like during my life, I'm able to like achieve and accomplish so many things, but those things matter to me. But I'm like, okay, but when I die, what does this mean to anyone else? Like, like I can earn a college degree, I can drive the nicest car, I can like have all these clothes and all these things, but I'm like, okay, when I die, what does that matter to anyone else? So I wanted to make sure that I write and create art and music that can connect to other people even after I'm gone. Like there's someone that can relate to you. There's someone that was able to tell your story in a way that made sense to you, that you feel like, okay, that he worded that correctly, or he said this and I feel the same way, or I'm in this moment right now, or I'm going through that too. And just again, like I love connecting with people and relating to people. So that was like my goal, to make sure that I left a legacy and I was able to connect to people both living and gone.
Mm-hmm. Even when you're gone, YouTube videos you put out, songs you put out, they're still going to be on Spotify, still going to be on YouTube, and people are going to be able to listen to that for almost forever after you're gone.
Right. Because who does, like, there's not going to be a point where someone's not going through heartbreak or going through, like, the loss of a friend or a sibling or a family member or anything like that. Like, they're, like, again, like, stories that I'm telling is, like, something that people can relate to at any given point. Like, if I'm talking about, like, MySpace at one point like that, like, if people are talking about MySpace in their songs, that's obsolete now. You know what I mean? Like, no one...
Or when people make references to, like, games that are cool, or maybe, like, clothing lines that are popular, like, years from now, there's a chance that those are going to become less popular.
Not be as popular or even existing sometimes, yeah. So it's like, I want to talk about stuff that makes sense. And of course, so you do infuse some of those things in there because you're kind of like stamping the time. But other than that, it's like, I don't want to stamp my whole sound to the point where it's like, okay, 10 years from now, no one's going to know what you're talking about.
So we've been in it for over a year now. For this pandemic, has that either A, changed the way you go through your creative process, or B, made it easier or harder to come out with and make music?
It's a little bit of both. Like, during the beginning, I had writer's block, so I couldn't even write. And I had to like get out of the house, and I was like, okay, these four walls are just not helping me. They're not inspiring me.
I'm sure, like you said, you might be like driving and get lyrics or something. But at the start, everyone was just kind of like at home, just sitting there, and like especially for people who take inspiration from other things, they need to go out. They need to have that. They need to digest the information and digest things they see to have inspiration.
Exactly. So I literally would like just get in the car and go for like a 30-minute to an hour drive, and ironically, like things actually like lyrics would come to me and stuff like that. So I started writing a lot during the beginning of the pandemic and everything. And then when I started gearing up for the release of my latest EP, Mannequin, the whole like rollout of everything kind of just came together. And because of the pandemic, I've been able to like focus on it in this format and be able to like utilize time to the best of my abilities, to where it's like because I'm still working full time, and I'm also doing DoorDash and Grubhub and trying to make extra money to like pay towards music and fund it. But like because I'm already home, I can like utilize the time the best way. So I'm like, I can do work, and then I can take a break and like focus on something music wise, and then take a break or go back to work and then take a break later and stuff like that. But I was able to like shoot music videos during the pandemic. I was able to like promote and push like the project as well, and like get it out there and in a way that I feel without the pandemic, not that it wouldn't have happened, but I don't think it would have happened in the time frame that it did.
And so you talked about how you would like work, then take a break, work, take a break. That's definitely important. How important do you think that is for people to follow?
Work-life balance is huge, especially now like that people are being honest and admitting to like just different mental health issues and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's a requirement. Like taking a break, even if it's like as small as 10, 15 minutes of just silence. Like do that. Even if it's like a 30-minute nap, like to just rejuvenate and it'll kind of like shift gears. Do that. Take a walk. Whatever it is that helps you. I think people need to like get back into that, and I feel like the pandemic has allowed us to like explore that again and those options, because it was always like a hustle and bustle type of mentality. Like, okay,
yeah, you see so many people now with like the hustle mentality, like from when I wake up to when I go to bed, I'm promoting this song, I'm working, I'm writing these lyrics, and they don't ever just like stop to take a break, or at least when they're a big artist, it doesn't seem like that. And so it is very important that people come out and talk about what they do to take breaks or their mental health issues.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, if you pay attention to like the huge, like the mainstream artists, they all take breaks. But because it's not talked about, the perception is always like they're just continuing to go through it. And it's like they put out an album, they might tour it, and then they disappear until the next one comes out. And they very well could be in the studio recording it during that break, or they just could be like enjoying life and just exploring the world and things like that.
All
we never
professions
know.
have vacation days that you can take, or even like for things as fast paced as like sports, they have off seasons, and everyone just kind of gets to take a big break, enjoy life. And so you see these artists, like maybe artists that take longer between songs, like 21 Pilots, for example. They have like 3 years, maybe 2-3 years between albums, and it's like, yeah, it takes a long time to write songs, but it's not like they're releasing albums every time they come up with them. They're taking time with family and taking time to just enjoy what they have.
Right, exactly. And I think that's very important, because you want to, especially as an independent artist, like it's easy to get caught up in this, like, I have to keep going, I have to keep going, I have to keep going type of mentality, which I can admit I also had the same mentality. Like when I first started, like I don't have the luxury of taking a break because I'm not known. I have to work and like work harder than other people who have a team, who have a label behind them and all this other stuff. And then it hit me. I'm like, no, like if you like mentally are not there, or your body is exhausted, like it's not gonna, even if you continued with it, it's not gonna be your best. It's not gonna be your A game. So you have to take a break to make sure that anything you put out there is quality. You have to take a break and make sure anything that you are releasing is a good impression on people, because at any given point of like your career, like where you're at as the artist, it's great for you, but people can be introduced to you at any point. So like how I was saying earlier, like I have songs that I was writing when I was a kid. I have never released them, and I have no intentions of doing so, but I can imagine like if someone was introduced to Myles Jéh, listening to those songs, it's like I don't want to hear anymore, compared to like listening to the stuff that I came out with later as I continue to develop and grow as an artist, that it sounds better. If you're already like, I don't want to hear it anymore, you never get to that point, then it's like, okay, you miss out on someone who could actually be a true supporter and enjoy your music. So you want to make sure you're taking those breaks, so that way you're not putting out anything that doesn't sound like top notch for you. And sounds like something that you fully stand behind.
Yeah, and I'm sure that like keep going, you can't take breaks, like you said, is popular in independent artists, but I'm sure also in like upcoming artists or artists who don't have a very big following, like they feel like to grow they need to keep going, but it's like, no, if you have 10 followers or 10 million followers, you need to take breaks and should take breaks for that.
Exactly. Yeah, because the reality is, like, even if you, like, for example, like, if you have 10 followers, those 10 followers will actually be the ones that will buy your music and actually support and share to grow your following. People who have 10 million, like, all 10 million people.
There's a reason when people have 10 million followers, they're not getting 10 million likes on every post.
Exactly. Like, the way the social media algorithms are even set up now, like, all the people following you don't see your stuff. It doesn't matter how famous or big you are, it's just not happening. So the followings are great, the numbers are there, but the reality is, like, that's not everyone who's seeing it.
And so if you have them, again, okay, if you don't, but do you have kind of a top 3 or maybe favorite 3 albums of all time?
All time. Wow. This I might have actually. This I might have.
Mhm.
Toni Braxton. Her first one. Usher's Confessions, and who was another album I listened to and didn't skip. And I would say, oh my goodness. Okay, now you're making it hard. Oh boy. This is like a toss up because I want to say Michael Jackson, but then I also want to say, okay, wait. Oh man. And I know, like, after I say this and like we're done, I'm gonna think of like so many more.
Yeah. It's the thing when you're like in a conversation or an argument with someone and it finishes, and then a day later you're like, oh my god, I had the perfect
I
comeback.
should have said that exactly. I'm like, okay. Toni Braxton, Usher, and we'll go with a newcomer just for the sake of like someone new. I'll say Chloe and Halle.
Mm-hmm. So if you got the chance to make a song and you had the option of any artist in the music industry, who would it be? And you can have multiple answers also. Like I was talking to someone and they had like someone they thought they could make a good song with, and then their other answer was like, obviously for business, I want to make a song with Drake because like anything he puts out will get tons of popularity. So it can be for business or for what you think would be a good song.
I have like an artist that I want to actually work with, like collaborate on a song, like we're both like performing on the song, would be Jade Nova. An artist that I would want to write for, like just write the song and like work behind the scenes on it, but I'm vocally not on it at all, would be between Brandy and I would say John Legend.
Mm-hmm. So Brandy and John Legend, you would want to write for them. Is there like a reason behind them? Do you think you would have like good
vocally,
lyrics that
like,
would sound?
Vocally, I love like their sound, and like I can see like me writing a song that fits their sound and not necessarily trying to like create a new sound for them. And this Brandy, I refuse. I'm like, I'm not singing with you. Like vocally, the way you sound, I'm like, I'm not doing that to myself. I know what this is gonna sound like.
It's one of the people where like, even if you're a good singer, put them next to that, you're like, okay, maybe I'm not so good.
Yeah, it's like, you're just showing me all my flaws. No, thank you. So I would love to write for her, but I'm not singing with her. Like, we might sing behind the scenes, off camera type of thing. I want no recordings of this. But like, and
it's like at the private shows, you collect everyone's phone, make sure no one gets a recording.
No footage. So with John Legend, I just love his sound, like from his first song all the way through, like the trajectory of his career and the overall sound of his career. I just love like the classic style of it. I love just the full essence that he delivers. So I'm like, I know that he could come out and like present it really well.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, those are all the questions I had for today. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you online, social media, your music? If you have anything upcoming, where can they find all that?
Everything is under Myles Jéh. That's MYLESJEH. So you can actually find that on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a like page, and you can go to my website, which can lead you to all of those, which is www.mylesjeh.com. Again, that's MYLESJEH. For music videos, those are predominantly on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Myles Jéh. Or you can just type it in the search bar and find everything. The most recent project is the Mannequin EP that came out on January 23rd. It's a 5-track EP, and there are 2 videos for it already out now. So you can watch those videos and make sure you subscribe and wait, because there's more coming. I'm like actually in the process of working on a 3rd video, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, just subscribe and follow me everywhere. on like certain platforms, I'm able to actually follow you back, of course. So if you follow me, I'll try to follow back as well.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely make sure to follow you. You can go to MylesJéh.com, like you said, watch his videos, listen to Mannequin, and I'll leave a link to your Instagram right in the description of this podcast. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, Christian Dior, yeah, knock, got peas at the door, yeah, 30 point gon' score, yeah, I'ma hammer like Thor, yeah, wow, sippin' some oil, yeah, water gon' boil, yeah, want big coupe Megazord, yeah, plain paddock is aluminum foil, yeah.